to start. Okay, can I welcome everybody to the October meeting of the Combined Authority. Can I just say it's really great to see Councillor Ian Moran here, Leader of Westlights. I think it's your first meeting in.
Yes.
So welcome. And it's great to see Councillor Trish Hardy, who's here from Sefton, observing. Trisha, thank you. You are this morning. I know your leader can't make it. So Terry, it's good for you to see you as well from Warrington. So welcome everybody. Just before we get into the detail of the meeting, there are just a few housekeeping points as usual I just need to mention. First of all, can I remind everybody that all mobile phones should be turned to silent for the duration of the meeting, and can I ask to ensure that everyone in the chamber can hear the debate. Can I please ask members and those presenting the reports to use the microphones provided and to speak into them, please. They work best when they're close to you. And then finally, as ever, the meeting will be filmed by officers from the Combined Authority and will be available on the Knowsley Council YouTube channel later today. Okay, so those are the announcements. So can I start off item 1, apologies for absence, please, Angela?
Yes, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Marr, and as you indicated, Councillor Hardy has attended as an observer this afternoon.
Can we note that apology? Okay, thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Angela?
Yes, Chair. I think you have declarations you should make.
I do. Yeah, so if I can just say on item 7, Skills Capital Investment Fund Sites and Premises, I need to declare an interest in. I'm on the governing body of the Maritime and Engineering College North West, which is one of the organisations mentioned in that report. It's a non-pecuniary interest, but I will vacate the chair and leave the chamber, and I'll ask Barry Grumble, the vice chair, to take the chair for that item. Okay, thank you. Any other interests?
No other interest.
Okay, thanks very much. So item 3 in the minutes of the Combined Authority meeting held on the 21st of September 2015. Can we agree those minutes? Thank you. I'll sign them. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to item 4, the potential devolution of powers and resources to the city region. And I'm going to ask Jed Fitzgerald to come up to the top table, and I think, Jed, you're going to take us through a brief update presentation on this item. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Usual format, Chair, in terms of presentation around what I refer to as the state of play. A lot of conversations taking place on this subject at the moment. A reminder of the kind of key priorities that you agreed at the last meeting, that we boiled down the focus of the initial stages of devolution into those kind of categories. Haven't got all the detail on the presentation this morning, Shane, you'd like to know. more, but in the realisation that that seems to be a kind of benchmark position emerging around that kind of stuff. And obviously we can do a significant amount of really good work and make some real big economic impact with that scale of funding, that certainty of funding over that length of time. So we have kind of been negotiating around the principles of that, as you would expect, but I think it will be a political deal decision at government high level, in government at high level, obviously locally, about what that number of that is and the length of time involved around that. So that's a good example of where we've done all of the kind of footwork on it, but to mix a metaphor, we need somebody to put it in the garden, and that would be helpful if we can achieve that in the next week or so. In order to help substantiate that, we've been articulating with government officials kind of super programs of economic activity that would be exemplars or examples of the kind of big economic projects that we'll be looking to do using that kind of funding over that length of time. Now, clearly, none of us know what's going to be required in the economy in 30 years' time. Specifically, I don't. But I do know what will make a difference now for 30 years' time. So the two best examples that I'll quote, Chair, if that's all right, are around aggregating, and it is aggregating, the super port development of Liverpool 2, the £300 million in craneage for the post-Panamax stuff that you all know about. That's live, it's ongoing. The cranes are due to arrive at any particular point. Rather than you may be able to give us a date.
3 or 4 weeks. 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah.
So we know that one's live. We know it's going to make a big impact. And a great credit to Peer Ports in this particular case for getting that one moving. We've packaged that, which is private sector investment, with the consequential investment that we know we've got to make in infrastructure around roads and around freight and logistics that can optimise the economic value of that particular project. And then we've also then added in from the devolution framework that we've been working to around stuff in the river and around energy, so that we can create an aggregation of stuff that's all port related. And we've also added specifically the, I'll link this one actually, Chair, that's all right, free trade zone, which is where there would be import duty advantages on both sides of the river around the operation of the port of Liverpool that would actually help to create a competitive advantage for the port of Liverpool, which in turn again reinforces the significance of the investment through superports and all those things. So the logic of that is to say that they're massive economic generators in their own right. We want some specifics through devolution and some specific amounts of money, but it actually unlocks and adds value to all of those things that are in that kind of program approach to it. Second example will be around HS2, where the government is about, I think, to make some more announcements about lifting the pause on the HS2, HS3 debate and the kind of routing and the prioritisation of different forms of the route. And as you know, we've been making significant headway over the last 18 months or so around how Liverpool needs to be connected to the HS2 infrastructure and the east-west connectivity through transport for the north, which the head of main service will know about not too distant future, Chair. In order to get the Northern Powerhouse argument kind of moving from an infrastructure point of view, so by linking those strategically with a specific set of issues around Lime Street Station and around the track and the platform layout and so on to allow us to be in a position to accept HS2 trains in the future, then we can then link that with investments taking place through the two city centre universities in Liverpool, which is already identified. Liverpool John Moores University are investing £100 million in various physical developments around Copperas Hill and back of Lime Street Station. The University of Liverpool are doing similar, and the City of Liverpool is doing, the council is doing a major project around Paddington Place, as it's increasingly known, Archbishop Limestone, which we've been doing a lot of land assembly and development planning around that. And in aggregate again, there's some specifics we need from government around the devolution context, some specific amounts of money, but it unlocks all of this rest of things that the government can kind of say, this is what devolution means to a place like Liverpool. There's two examples, Chair, there might be others that we're trying to work on at the moment on the same logic around aggregating projects and programmes to create the biggest economic impact arising from the devolution like the look of that kind of approach, and we think that will make a big difference in trying to justify the amount of money through the single investment fund that I was referring to a minute or two ago. Business support chair shows you how quickly this process moves. That's now been agreed in principle, so that one comes off the list for ongoing negotiations because we've converted it, got it over the line, subject to the detail of wording and so on. Energy, it overlaps to the point I was making about the river and trying to generate a project around, pun intended, around tidal power. But we've struggled to get significant engagement from DEC, the government department that is supposed to lead on these kind of issues. So we will be taking that back through a different route in order to get the kind of engagement that we need. And I've referenced the free trade zone. Transport, the tunnel tolls and some of the wider transport asks, we've made really good progress on most of those, but there's some higher level, I suspect, ultimately possibly the Chancellor will need to make a decision around our asks around that, about what the economic significance of those will be for us. So I suspect that one will stay on the table for a little bit longer until you have your next wave of conversations, which I'll refer to in a second. Housing, we are again struggling to be able to change one or two aspects of government policy around housing. So we have made some progress, but we haven't made as much progress as you would want politically. And I suspect that will be an area again where we'll make a little bit more progress, but you probably have to have a debate with government at senior level politically around what the art of the possible is on that. And likewise in skills and employment, we've made some headway, but we're still getting some reluctance from some government departments, principally the DWP, around some aspects of what it is that we're trying to negotiate on skills and employment. So just move to the next steps, Chair, that's okay. I've referenced some of this effectively already. The meeting that's in the diary with Lord Heseltine, who's going to take forward the next stage of the formal political negotiations between the government and ourselves, takes place on the 29th of October. It's referred to as a challenge event because that's how the government is approaching these things with all of the devolution authorities. And we will put obviously an agenda together with you on our side of this, but it will replicate some of those examples I've just been referring to, where there are issues that still need to be resolved and where you should be looking to try and force the government's hand on one or two issues that would improve our economic prospects and make a difference locally. The next step after that will be practically the window will close on the negotiations on the first phase of the devolution deal, recognising that there will be maybe some ongoing conversations, but also that some of the phase 2 stuff will maybe still be happening behind the scenes, but the formality, I think, of the negotiations on phase 1 will close probably a few days after the 29th of October, and then we will have a much better idea about the assessment of price versus price in the first couple of weeks, literally, of November, and there will either be an announcement or not on the 25th of November as part of the Chancellor's autumn statement around whether the city region has been able to negotiate a sufficiently attractive and advantageous devolution deal as a prize in return for the price that the government is looking for in terms of a city region there, as you know. So that's the state of play in the round at the moment, Chair. Happy to answer any questions or take anything else.
Before I bring members in, I think it might be helpful if I just added to that last point, Jed, just a few words to say that, I mean, clearly some of the reports earlier this week, as you say, have not been helpful. But I just wanted to say, you know, reflecting on the state of play that you've just reported back on, and you know, I know the Mayor and the leaders will add to this, but you know, I still think we're engaging very positively in these negotiations. I think we see the opportunities there for the city region, both economically, socially, etc. As far as I think you reported back on, Jed, and certainly I know, government have indicated that they're still engaging positively in this process, and they want to maintain the momentum behind all of this. And I think we're all united that we want to get the best deal for the city region, and if we can complete these negotiations successfully, I think we will support the city region there if the price is worth the prize, and I think that's been our mantra all the way along. So I just comments I've seen in the media from unnamed sources earlier in the week, have not been that helpful. So I think it's important just to state the position, of the CA this morning. So any more members want to add anything to that? Joe?
Just only one comment on the minister that was supposed to have made comments about our proposals or that. He claimed, or she claimed, whoever it was, that it was like a thesis. But the reality is that you can't ask for issues like education, transport, energy, housing, all of those things without putting details in and without submitting. And what we've actually said consistently is you're absolutely right that the prize has to be worth the price we pay. And we will only sign up to that deal if that price is what we agree on. So that's where we're at. It's simple as that. More negotiations will take place. But it's only a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that we stood here in this chamber and said that government had said quite clearly that they were impressed with what we were doing and how we were doing it. So, some individual has supposedly said that, we're not moving forward fast enough. Well, on the contrary, I think we're doing a reasonably good job, and I'm confident that we'll meet the deadlines that have been put before us.
Okay, Robert?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just a number of points, really. First of all, thank you, Jeff, for that very clear update. There's no doubt this is a very challenging timetable indeed, and I recognise all the hugely hard work gone into it by officials and colleagues in this very complex process. And it is complex, it's very sensitive, and way more complicated than people realise externally. I think also that as this process rolls out, the hard work we're now putting in will be justified in I believe, what will become a devolution deal. I think that's vital to the city region. It depends upon the terms, quite clearly, the price and the price, but gives us a chance to show that we can collaborate, we can look forward economically and provide the right foresight and ambition and vision to take the city region forward to the next decade and beyond, and deliver those benefits for our communities and the people and the job creation within it. So I think all that is vital, and I believe we are on the right track in a very complex situation, the complexity of which isn't always externally realised, and I sense and know exactly what all that does involve. I think it's also important that the price and the prize are right, absolutely critical, Chair, as you say. It's also quite important that we are in the first wave, if at all possible, if the price and the price is right. That shows our credentials, it shows our credibility. We are at the forefront of new progress and takes us forward with the top, with the Premier Division there, of course it is. So, but it must be right. But I recognise the importance of the period in that first wave. I think also that the private sector, if I just mention this just briefly in its particularity, that they see it more simply. They don't understand what the political complexities of what perhaps those around the members of the authority collectively have to deal with. They are so keen to see this happen. They see this as it's an example of progress and responsibility and achievement, but more than that, it gives the opportunity to have that local determination. So I just wanted to mention that again. And they have been involved. 12 bodies have now come together with a single voice around your key areas there, Joe, that you referred to, and they have a view on each, and they've been adopted and received by you and your colleagues very, very, very willingly, and I think very positively indeed. And that's appreciated. See those 5 points, those 5 areas captured in that way is important. I think another point to make, just a final point, Chair, is that this is important, but progress recently in our city region has been strong. ONS, the Office for National Statistics, this week reported a net gain of 44,000 new private sector jobs in our city region since 2010. That's a greater growth than all of the northern peer regions, city regions, and some 23,000 of these were created in 2013-14, and that outpaced the average of the whole of England. That is what we're doing now. That's what we've built upon. That's what we've worked for collectively, and it's showing chapter can take us even further forward.
Yeah, okay, thanks Robert. I've certainly echoed those comments about those jobs. It's a fantastic achievement. So yeah, absolutely. Any more comments from anybody? No, if not then, so can I note that update report? Clearly we'll bring further reports back in future meetings. Is that great? Thank you, Jed. Thank you very much. Okay, takes us on then to item 5, low emission vehicle update and bid submission. And Frank Rogers, Frank, you're going to take us through this, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to update the CA on where we're at with low emission vehicle activities for the city region, and also to seek approval for submission of 2 bids to the Department for Transport under the low emission bus scheme and under the Clean Bus Technology Fund. Both bids have a submission deadline of the 30th of October 2015. Additionally, both bids do have the potential to improve air quality in some of the areas of the city region. In respect to an update on progress to date, from a recharge perspective, the first phase of the recharge scheme was completed in June of this year. To date, 14 publicly available charging posts have been installed across the city region. A full list of locations for those posts is included in Appendix 1. All of the posts installed to date have been used, with the one at Seacombe Ferry Terminal being the most popular post. We are looking to develop further sites across the city region, and we're also exploring the potential for rapid charging as a network across the Liverpool city region. In relation to ULEV readiness, ultra-low emission vehicles, Energy Savings Trust have undertaken a review of all of the fleets across each of the districts, and as a result, 23 ultra-low emission vehicles will be introduced into the council fleets with effect from winter of 2015. On the low emission taxi scheme, again, Energy Savings Trust have undertaken a study into low emission taxis for the Liverpool city region, and the findings have been presented to the city region's taxi quality partnership to consider next steps in terms of an approach for fund and submissions. There is a fund size available of up to 20 million against that particular funded opportunity. In relation to the 2 bids that we're looking for approval to submit, on the first one for the low emission bus scheme, DFT have made available a pot of 30 million of funding for low emission buses in England and Wales. The aim of that pot is to increase the uptake of ultra low emission vehicles and also obviously to improve air quality. Merseytravel have been working with the partners across the combined authority and local bus operators, and are proposing now to submit a bid subject to combined authority approval. All of the operators in the city region were given the opportunity to be part of the bid. However, at present, only Arriva are involved in the final stages. The bid covers 3 different technologies. The first is 100% electric, and under that particular electronic technology strand, we're looking to have 100% electric single-decker buses, and there's a potential there for 12 buses to be installed on the 26 and 27 route. From a gas technology, there's a potential for 9 buses to be installed on the 82A route, and from the diesel hybrid technology, there's a potential for 51 hybrids to be put into service on the 14, 18 and 79 routes. The grants that are available to the operators cover up to 90% of the difference between the cost of a low emission bus and the cost of a similar diesel bus, dependent upon the technology that's actually adopted. So that's the detail on the low emission bus scheme. In relation to the Clean Bus Technology Fund, there is 5 million of funding available for bus modifications to reduce nitrous oxide emissions, which are known to contribute to lung and heart disease. Individual bids can be up to 500,000, and the deadline as mentioned is 30th of October. We're currently working with 2 operators, Comfy Bus and Open Transport, with projects still being finalised in relation to the technology provision, but it does include selective catalytic reduction technology. So I'm happy to take any questions, but we're looking for approval for the submission of the bids.
Okay, thank you, Frank, for that. Any comments, Joe?
Yeah, I think we can agree the bid the new low emission type buses that are required and needed for the city region. So I think I'd like to get a letter to actually say how disappointed we are with Stagecoach and the others that have actually dropped out of supporting the scheme, but they're supporting other areas. We need to write and do that, but we equally need to look at the policy of making sure that new buses are the low emission buses that come into the city region.
Okay.
And I think it's worthwhile emphasising, Chair, that that we would look at non-cooperation within that area in terms of the subsidies that we make to them. So I think we need to exert a little bit of environmental pressure.
Other comments? No? Not? Okay, so can we agree those recommendations, and can we add that additional point that Joe's raised about the writing to the people who are not participating? Is that agreed? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Frank. Right, that takes us on to item 6, Skills for Growth Priorities 2015-16. And Sue Jarvis is coming up to the front to do a presentation on this for us, please, Sue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to start off the presentation just to remind members that over the last few years the Employment and Skills Board has produced a suite of skills for growth agreements, and these are intended to communicate the future skill needs of business to schools, to colleges and to our universities. And the timeline you've got there on the slide shows that we've mentioned at the start that we've been doing this work for a few years, and we've actually produced 7 sector-based skills for growth agreements. And we've started to see that there is actually some changes taking place because of the messages that are coming out of these documents. So we've analysed the details of the enrolment data, and what we find is this slide just gives a little summary here, that in the subject areas of engineering and manufacturing technologies, for example, there's been a 21% change in terms of what the
trying to create on Merseyside.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. Do you want to come back on that, sir?
I think one point just to raise, you mentioned around apprenticeships and the levy, that will have quite a big impact on the city region when that's introduced. The detail behind the policy is still being crafted in country, so we still don't know the full extent, but we know that employers employing over 250 staff, there will be a levy, and it will be a levy on the private sector and the public sector employers as part of that, so we're going to have to watch that one closely and have some input to that in some shape or form.
Okay. Thanks. Robert?
Yes, thanks, Sue. Thank you for the comprehensive and full report there. This has not yet been through our LEP, as you know, and we look forward to the Chair of the Employment and Skills Board presenting to our LEP with this report early in December at our board meeting then, and it will then be reviewed. So my comments now are personal rather than on behalf of the LEP itself. It was, as I say, a comprehensive report. I think just a couple of comments really around it. The actual skills application are vertical, and therefore that they look at the particular sector in question as to what that sector might require, whereas occasionally you do need horizontal transmission of skills from digital to manufacturing or healthcare and so on. So I think that dimension, the horizontal dimension, rather than just the vertical, would be appreciated. I think also you've explained very clearly where we are, you've reviewed it, you've told us what the problems are and what the challenges are. I think what would be helpful from my point of view is to see a very precise description of the actions required in terms of what we should prioritise on, what we need to relate to, what should be measured and have the correct KPIs. So the forward actions are less precise than perhaps I might have designed in a perfect world. So I'll leave that for with you. These are personal comments from me, not from the lab. But I think it is a great review, but the precision of how we engage with the employers, the businesses, what they require, how we go about it, is really what I'd like to see refined and intensified.
So, do you want to just come back on that?
Yeah, I think as part of the description, this is an ongoing piece of work. So I think the key in terms of pinning down some of the action, there's some broad-based actions within the documentation. It's how we can sit round the table with the relevant partners and the businesses, because there's got to be, there's got to be buy-in to move this forward so that we can get the changes that we need.
Other comments? I mean, presumably, Sue, you mentioned in your presentation, the devolution agenda gives us an opportunity to begin to address some of these issues that you've mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, at the minute, all of this is done on a voluntary basis, so the more that we can actually get some teeth behind this, the Employment Skills Board doesn't have the teeth to enact some of the details in here, so devolution would allow us to progress down that route.
Joe?
Yeah. I don't want to be sort of negative on it, but this report, as we've had, if you like, similar reports, we've been doing reports into the requirements of businesses and the need to upgrade skills of those long-term unemployed and young people needs and stuff, whatever, come through school, developing apprenticeships and stuff, whatever. And if I'm honest with you, I think, for me, the Devo deal might give us an opportunity to shake this up, because, there is no real movement. I think Andy mentioned before about, the connection between schools and businesses and kids and businesses. We've got a lot to do. I'm really underwhelmed with it. The report is full of information that I'm already aware of, and I think everybody within on this table are aware of. It's very short on action plans in terms of how we do it. It's interesting that it's going to go to the Employment and Skills Board. Where is the simple mechanisms of how we motivate young people about the opportunities that are going to be within the city region, and then how do we match the skills requirements of businesses with those students, with those kids, with those students who want to get into work. There's none of that. I see more slides, more information, more data, but by little of action. That's not a criticism of you in terms of the report is pretty this is good in the sense of it paints the picture. Well, I'm just less convinced that we've got our head around this. You know, when I look at the Superport and when I see that, you know, the jobs that are going to be created, and I'm asking myself the question, where are the kids with Port Logistics training? How are we motivating people to take advantage of those opportunities? And those things aren't being addressed, whether it's in the creative and digital sector, the new technologies, the things that we know are going to happen out as the city region develops. There's nothing in there, there's nothing that connects that. That's a real concern for me. So, you know, I welcome the report in the sense of its, you know, its context of setting out the failings, but I'd like to see a lot more action in how we address those failings, and that includes motivating young people. You know, in a nutshell, I'm sick and tired of going to schools and talking to year 9s and year 10s when asked the question, what is it you aspire to be, what is it you want to be, you say media, or want to go into sports, without no knowledge of what is and what is available in terms of opportunities. We've got to address that. Okay, I accept the fact that we've done presentations and we've done things at St. Helens, we did stuff with the IFB, they're great, but I think we've got to encourage business to be a little bit more involved in this as well, to get out and motivate children, to get out and talk to them about what those opportunities are. So, you know, as I said, I think the DEVO gives us an opportunity with potentially new apprenticeship funding, with how we control some of what's happening. But we've just got to get a lot better than where we are. I'm sorry to be negative in that regard, but I don't think we're anywhere near being where we should be.
Okay. Any other points? Andy.
Just saying on Joe's point there, pretty much agree. We do need to move this forward in that sense. I think when we next week at the left board, it's going to be come up with a recommendation from the left board where we all fit together and how we drive that forward. Just a little anecdote to that. Last week I was with Jaguar, and the guy that was showing down told us a little story about taking a gang of school children down, and the teacher with the children turned around and said, if you don't listen to what's going on, it gets to university, you end up working in here.
Some of them are on 50+ thousand pounds a year.
Terry.
Thanks. Just a contribution from me. I mean, I think we're all struggling, and I class it as careers advice. I think it's non-existent nowadays. And I think we need to get back to actually what Joe was on about, and whether employers engage more with us to actually get into the schools at lower. I mean, primary schools as much as anything to get kids. I mean, it's a dirty word, engineering, in this country for some reason. Don't know why, but we've got a lot of catching up to do. And careers advice is non-existent nowadays in any of our areas, and that's what we've got to get back to. Giving the kids guidance at the right age and the right steps and a pathway to get careers.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Any other points? Okay, so I mean, I suspect we will come back to this in the coming kind of weeks and months, particularly in the context of devolution. However, for today, are we content to agree the recommendations on page 15, A and B? Are they agreed? Agreed. Okay, thanks for that, Sue. Right, that takes us to item 7, at which point I'm going to vacate the chair and ask Barry to take over for this item.
Item 7, skills capital investment on the site and premises Strand 1 Stage 2 assessment outcome. Sue.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to bring forward the skills capital paper. This is, as you will recall, we've had £41 million allocated through the growth deal for skills capital funding, and of that 23.6 million for sites and premises. We opened up the applications for this in the spring of this year, and back in June the combined authority approved 4
interim management arrangements. Angela, could you introduce this, please?
Thank you, Chair. All members are aware of the announcement which was made only last week by Transport for the North that David Brown has been appointed its first Chief Executive. The report before you provides some information in relation to how this affects the combined authority and how it affects Mersey travel. Specifically, it notes that because it's not anticipated that Transport for the North will be a legal entity with statutory status until 2017, there is a need for an organisation with legal status to fulfil the role of employer until this takes place. The combined authority is being asked today to accept that Mersey Travel will fulfil that role as from the 9th of November, when it's intended that Mr Brown will take up his new role. There will be no cost to either to the city, to the combined authority or to Mersey Travel, because costs will be met by the accountable body for Transport for the North, which I understand is the Sheffield City Region Combined Authority. As you expect, there are other more detailed arrangements related to the employment relationship, which are currently being worked through, and will need to be sorted before the 9th of November when Mr Brown takes his role. On that basis, I am asking the Combined Authority for a delegation to be given to me as managing officer in consultation with the Chair of the Combined Authority to approve those arrangements. Members will be particularly concerned about the impact of the recent appointment on the City Region's transport priorities and want to be assured that those can be minimised. It is recommended that the Deputy Chief Executive for Mersey Travel is appointed as its interim director until further decision by the Combined Authority. The interim director will take the necessary steps to increase capacity to cover his existing duties. Finally, following Mr Brown taking up his new role on the 9th of November, there will be a need for the Combined Authority to appoint a new head of paid service. It's intended to bring a report on the matter to the next meeting for decision by the Combined Authority. There will be a small gap between when Mr Brown takes up his role on the 9th and the next meeting of the Combined Authority on the 20th of November. But a report will be brought to that meeting with the intention that the Combined Authority will appoint a new head of paid service. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Angela. Okay, so just to kind of emphasise the point Angela makes, these are interim arrangements. Can I just ask our members to content with this, Joe?
Can I just ask for clarification on in terms of the secondments and the length of time? You're talking about a 2-year period and you're asking the Combined Authority to act as, if you like, sort of managing that arrangement. So in effect, where does that leave us in terms of replacing David, if that's what we need to do?
That is the matter to be worked through. The Combined Authority will host the arrangements of as employer of Mr Brown for a 2-year period. That's not what we're saying in terms of the outcome of the Chief Executive of Mersey Travel. Combined Authority is able to appoint a new Chief Executive of Mersey Travel within that 2-year period. What that period will be is a matter to be worked through now.
So why do we agreeing to a 2-year period?
I think the Transport for the North will not become a statutory body. It's anticipated until 2017. So Transport for the North is not able to act as employer for its Chief Executive. So a legal entity such as Mersey Travel will need to host.
Because this is information, I don't necessarily think it's something that can be sort of discussed as public. Can I ask that we have a look at that before we agree, in the sense that point about the 2-year period is not in the report. What you've just said, so it's news to me. And the rest of the reports I was happy with in terms of the secondment to replace Dave and stuff like that, but not going to arrange up to the 2-year period. That in some sense may, and I've listened to your advice fetters combined authority for all intents and purposes finding a replacement for a 2-year period. I think that pauses us, and I'm not prepared to sort of sign up to that. So I think we need some conversation. Some clarity, Chair.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think all that we're being asked to do today is kind of note David's appointments, agree that Frank Rogers comes in as an interim Director General Chief Exec. In terms of the longer term arrangements beyond that, I think that's we'll have a further report back pending further discussions.
Well,
I think
that's what's getting asked
to do.
here. Angela read out a section that said that we agree a 2-year period, and that's why I'm seeking clarification, because what I'm absolutely saying is that I'm not comfortable with agreeing to that arrangement.
Do you want to just reply to that specific point, Angela?
Yeah, I mean, in section 3.3 of the report, it does say that it's not anticipated that Transport will be a statutory body until 2017, and until such time as it has statutory status, it's proposed that Mersey Travel will have the Chief Executive. It isn't, we're not saying that until such time as the employment is transferred to Transport for the North, the Combined Authority cannot appoint a new Chief Executive of Mersey Travel. That is something that's being worked through, and that is the reason that the request has been made for a delegation in consultation with the Self Chair to be able to deal with those issues before Mr Brown is due to commence his new role on the 9th of November.
Well, Chair, that's as clear as mud. The reality is I've made my position clear that I'm happy for David to take up the seconded post. What I'm not happy is for this combined authority because it's been better in moving forward to find a replacement if that's so required. Now, you know, I want that explicitly agreed before I say, you know, that's fine. The rest of it I'm happy with, you know, right on all of those things, but I just want that. Seems a bit ambiguous to me. And what you're saying to me doesn't give me a great deal of comfort. I'd rather see it in writing.
Barry, you wanted to...
Yeah, no, it was just a question in terms of risk as well, I suppose, in some ways, that in terms of if we're hosting David's employment before the official transfer to TM.
Standard wasn't quite consistent with that 2-year period issue. It was being spoken about at one time, but I thought that had moved on in translation. But of course we don't know. I don't know the full detail about this. Councillor Robinson does, and he's not here, and I'm not going to interrupt his other pressing commitments today, literally.
Yeah.
So maybe taking the mayor's concerns and other members' concerns to one side, if we can clarify that maybe through a conversation with David outside of the meeting about what his understanding is, I would suggest that in the interests of trying to move the issue forward, that we've got to come back with a proposal on the rest of the issue anyway, that unless there's a deal breaker issue from David's point of view or elsewhere in the system that I'm not aware of, we can tidy up the exact detail of how that mechanism may or may not work, and whether the timescale is that period of time or not from that point of view.
Angela, do you want to sum up on this? Just so everybody's clear.
Chair, as I explained, my understanding is that the Mersey Travel will host the Chief Executive until such time as Transport for the North is a statutory body, and when the employment will transfer. In the meantime, if the Combined Authority wishes to appoint a Chief Executive, the Combined Authority will be entitled to do so. That needs to be, as Chair indicated, tied up in the arrangements that are made with Mr. Brown.
Robert.
I don't want to complicate the issue, but I would be interested to know what Transport for the North think about this. Do they think they have David on call for 2 years? And what I hear is that that may be a presumption, and that seems to me to be the other side of the coin. So I don't think... Yeah, the question is, what is their expectation? What is the expectation for Transport for the North and how that might work? And if that was a 2-year expectation, it seems to me that may not be what we all think is appropriate.
Thanks, Jeff. I think the clearest position here is that David Brown has been taken on by Transport for the North for that period of time and hopefully beyond in his own career interests and obviously the interests of Transport for the North. That's not an issue.
transport for the north. I'm interested in what's in the best interest of this particular combined authority, and I'm not prepared to accept that we are better. If you're telling me we're not, then I'm happy to see that in a better report that points out that when brought back to us at a later date.
Yeah, okay. Can we agree that then? Yeah, is that agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, so I've not been informed of any urgent items of business, so can I thank everybody for their attendance today. I just remind you the next scheduled meeting of the Combined Authority will be at 11 a.m. on Friday, 20th of November, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance.